Pisgah Eagles today, and Coach Luke Pruitt. Coach, if you'd let the guys introduce themselves, or you introduce them, their position and their class year, and then some opening comments from you, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you all for doing this, for these guys, for promoting high school football in our area. I always look forward to coming out today to get to see some of the faces we don't see every week. But before we get started, I would like to give a shout out to last year's seniors. They've went on, but they changed the trajectory of our program in the 4 years that we had them. And that leads us into our senior class this year. We have 9 seniors. I have 3 of them here today. We have 21 juniors and seniors that have been, along with last year's senior class and the one before that, have been in the fight with us this whole time. On the far left is Legion McQuarrie. He is a he's a returner at starter at running back for us. He had over 1,000 yards last year. He had over 1,500 total. Became a threat out of the backfield. Starts for us at corner on defense. His production was limited because we got games out of hand, and he didn't get as many touches probably that he deserved, but you'll never hear him say anything about that. To my left is Isaac Griggs. Isaac's has started for us. He actually started as an 8th grader in the COVID year that was so bad that we've talked about in the past, but he drew his first start as an 8th grader and started off and on for us, offensive line, defensive line for us, and he will start for us at 3 Technic this year. And to my right is Luke Gilbert. Luke has started since he was a freshman on both sides of the ball, just like Legion. He had to play some as an 8th grader as well that year, but he will be stepping into a new role from his ex position going to the quarterback position, which he's played before, and he's also him and Legion are our leaders in our secondary. But these guys, along with a bunch that's graduated before us, have put us in a different area. The last 2 seasons, we've been defeated in the semifinals. Last year, we were beaten twice by the state champion. And I told the guys when we walked out of that locker room to look around, be the last time that they were assembled, and that we laid it on the line, and we had nothing to hang our hats about. And I'm super proud of the way last year went. Came up short, which springboarded us into this season. Our expectations are high. Because the standard has been set by these guys and the ones that's not here with us today that are back in Pisgah. But, you know, our goal this year is to win a region championship, host a home playoff game, and knock the door down and get to the state championship and win that as well. You know, that's something that we've talked about it the last couple of years. It's attainable, and that's our number one goal this season.
Coach, we've got 3 starters, I know, here. Talk about the number of starters, both sides of the ball coming back. And, again, the expectations, as you said, 23 wins, I think, the last couple of seasons. And that really has to elevate the expectations in your community. As one of the coaches, I think your brother stated a few minutes ago, that you were singing hallelujah when Fife moved to 3A. So,
yes, these guys I think I was thinking on the way up here, they've got close to 40 starts in their career. You know, that's counting, you know, they've played the last 2 seasons, 8 playoff games. That's nearly a complete season. So it's interesting. I think I count correctly. We have 8 back on offense. And that is kind of a tricky question. We lose J.D. Martin, who's at the University of Alabama now. We lose Jacob Kirby, and we lose Mason Holcomb. That is going to be the University of West Alabama. But Luke's moving positions, but some of the guys that are coming in have been 1Bs. So they've rotated. We've added Caleb Jenkins at Z and Jackson Smollett at X, but they've been rotating as 1Bs, as we call it, since they were freshmen. You know, they were in ball games, winning drives. Jack was in against Sylvania last year, the whole last drive. He played when Luke moved to quarterback against Fife last year. Jack played X. You know, Caleb started on defense at the end of the year because we had one get banged up. So these are guys. It's kind of a tricky question. We have 8 technically, I guess, on paper, but we've got more than that because of the rotation we've had. We've got 4 offensive linemen back. That's one of our strengths as well. But the kid that's stepping in that has not started yet, he started last season because JD missed some games. So he started multiple ball games, playoff games, and he's always rotated. So technically we have more than that if you want to be honest. But coming back, I guess you would say 8. We have 9 on defense. Lost Jacob Kirby at safety, who was a 3-year starter, made a ton of plays for us, kind of was the field general back there along with these guys. I mentioned Fox Tinker had started, but Caleb came in the playoffs, did a really good job because we treated him as a 1B. We got all 3 of our linebackers back. We were able to get Grant Smith back last year in the playoffs. He had a early season injury before the season last year, but he played, came down. But Jet Jeffrey, Kate Duncan, Levi Horton return at linebacker. And then up front, we have a bunch of guys that's rotated. So, that's kind of we have 9 back, but we have a bunch of guys that rotated, and it's kind of stepped up. And that's something that we tell our guys, hey, as sophomores, freshmen, figure out a way to get in the rotation. But what was the last part of the question, Jeff?
About, I guess, expectations at 5 went up.
So they moved up. I was on a cruise ship when we found out, and I had bad service. It was hard. Had people at one point. I got service, and people bombarded that they were no longer there. We've lost 6 football games in the last 2 years. I think at 5 football games the last 2 years. 4 of them's been to them, who's the state champion. And the other one was to Sylvania, who that year got beat in the semifinals. So, yes, they moved out of the way, but I told Coach Benefield at the semifinal meeting, I said, Coach, whether or not, if you move up, we want to play because we want that challenge, and our guys want that as well. And he said, we'll figure something out. We'll see. He didn't know at that time. So, yes, they're out of the way, but we're not looking ahead to that. We want to handle – that's one of our goals, but we handle it week by week, and – we haven't looked at them the last 2 years. It's all about what's on the front of their chest, and that's what we tell them. It's about Pisgah. We can control what Pisgah does, and that's it. And that's what we're going to focus on this year as well. We're going to do what we're supposed to do week in and week out to get better for that ultimate goal, which is to win a state championship.
Well, Coach Pruitt, this program's come a long way under you. I remember your first year, it was a little bit of a struggle, but now you're an established program. Well, last year you lost Holcomb in the quarterfinals, and you knew in that semifinal game it's going to be tough. Kind of changed gears just a little bit, but the defense really picked up their play in that game against Fife. They played very well. Does that kind of change your philosophy just a little bit, that you can count on your defense? Because, they played lights out against Fife in that semifinal game.
We knew going into it the last 2 years there was a chance that we could play them later on. So, not to say we didn't hold everything back the first time we played them, but we had some things because we knew we'd have to see them again. But, you mentioned missing Mason. Nobody knows this, but, he's got starts under his belts. He's got starts against the defending state champions the last 2 years. He's played unbelievable, but something that people has no clue about. We knew on Monday that Mason was not going to play. He got sick got a virus in the middle of practice. So he missed all of Tuesday. And did you go defense on Wednesday of that week? He only went offense. So we have Jackson Smalley, I mentioned earlier, that's having to get reps against the defending state champion in the semifinal in, that week. And it was a good, not that we were not close, but our linemen came together, Legion to help our quarterback out, Jack at that time, our wideouts. Tuesday's practice was good. For us because we circled the wagon. We knew going into it that, threes, you got a 4-year signal caller, goes down. We got to step up around. And Luke did a phenomenal job going in that role. But the defense, we told them before the ball game started, hey, we're going to have no excuses when it's over with. We're going to lay it on the line, and we're going to let it lie. And that's what we did, and I'm proud of the way our kids. I'm getting emotional, but I thought they played really good, So that's 6-0 at halftime. Had a Legion picked one off. It got called back, and anyways, We won't comment on that, but you go back and watch the film, that it was a bad call. Kid did a great job falling, but he missed it. You never know. We're up 8-6 at halftime. You know, that's a difference. We fought our tails off and we come up with nothing. It changed the 2-minute offense. We went from being on the 10-yard line, and there ain't very many people stopped us yet, to being backed up, and we had to play close to the vest. But anyways, yes, that was a game that, I was proud of the way we played. And, they're gone now, but like I said, it matters. We can't control any of that. I don't think we can control Pisgah.
This question's for each one of you guys. Coach mentioned, all of you guys have been tons and tons of starts under your belt. How much more comfortable are you coming into this season? It's just like you wake up every morning. This kind of business as usual for you guys. Has a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder this year because, it is your team now. You know what I mean? But talk about how much more comfortable and ready for this role that you guys have this year.
Coming into this year with a lot of starts under all three of our belts, definitely, like you said, comfortable would be a good word, especially playing opponents that we've played against in the past. We've got Plainview on the schedule, we've got Randolph on the schedule, Pleasant Valley, and then we've played the others, So that definitely, having played against those opponents in the past, definitely sits well with you coming into this season.
As Luke said, we've grown up playing against all these teams, and we know what to expect when we play them. But just each and every day, we got to come in and work and work and work.
Yeah, what they said, but being a senior is very comfortable. You've grown up in this system for 4 years, and it gives you a lot of confidence on what you can do on the field and what your team can do on the field. But I'd say it is very comfortable being a senior and coming in every day, working to get better for the games and who we play against.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. Luke, guys, good to see you all. I did want to ask you, you did get a little emotional a few minutes ago. Walk us just through the process of building a program to what you want it to be, and then some of the attainable goals potentially for this group, but then just how all of these guys have kind of bought into what you've been trying to establish here well before they were, varsity football players or having to play in spots when necessarily they probably weren't potentially ready to do that, but here they are now.
Well, we started when I got to Pisgah. One of the things that drew me there was the success in the past and the community support with our sports programs. But that first year, most of my coaching staff have been with me from day one. And if they were not with me from day one, I talked to them. My defensive line coach, Davey Arnold, showed up the first day and met me and said he was over my Pee Wee program. And these guys were fifth graders the first year I was there. And, they had been winning the Super Bowl all the way through. But, the Pee Wee program was where it needed to be. And just trying to get everybody, it's unique at Pisgah. We have small communities that go through the 8th grade at their schools. You have Rosalie, Pisgah, Dutton, Flat Rock, and Henniger. And they're K through 8 schools. Well, we don't get everybody till they're 9th graders. And, you have your own identity. Like sitting up here, he lives in Pisgah, he lives in Rosalie, he lives in Dutton. But getting the identity that we're one, and it's the rivalry of playing in the middle schools to become united, big picture, it took us time. But this bunch was together before I got there. And, for instance, Coach Arnold was there day one. Coach Kirby wasn't with us. But he was at North Sand Mountain. He came by and he graduated from Pisgah, and he was like, Coach, if there's any way I can, come back. And then Coach Gilbert, which is Luke's dad, our offensive coordinator, he played at Pisgah. He called me at that time. He was at Scottsboro. He was like, hey, if there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know. And we had an opportunity to hire his dad, and we got Luke back in the 8th grade. But our coaching staff. Dwayne Bell is a graduate, played at Pisgah. We got J.C. Martin, who's also with us. Coach Dixie Williams, we got him. He came from Woodville. I had a previous connection with him, but early on, these guys have been through when we were not very good, and they saw the big picture. And Coach Warren Jeffrey as well. But those guys have pulled from day one, and we've worked baby steps getting to that point. We go back and look, the COVID year, these guys were, we beat Douglas week 10, and it kind of springboarded us into the next season. We start out 0-3 that year. These guys are freshmen at that year. They're having a start. We start 0-3. I just bought a house in Pisgah. I'm thinking I'm about to get run out of town. We end up winning the region. We have a bunch of guys coming back, and but it's just baby steps along the way. We win the region. We want to host a playoff game. We get to that point. Our slogan was that year, "Why not us?" Why can't we do it? We played in the spring, and we saw the capability, but the coaches knew we had the potential. We didn't know about these guys, and it really came into play that year. It was the 5 game. We have I think it's 3 scores at halftime. Right there, they realized that, not hey, we belong. And from that point on, these guys have played with confidence. And like I said, these guys got 40 starts under their belts. We've been behind. I can think of plays that they've made in their career throughout different ball games that, these guys don't flinch. And that's something that the experience that we have coming back. Like I said, we have 21 juniors and seniors. I'd love to bring all 9 of our seniors this year. They've been in a lot of ball games, but that's something that you can't teach every year is the experience. But it was a slow process, and I'm thankful the community allowed us to get to this point. And that's the thing. I tell our younger kids all the time, hey, what these guys went through, when we first got here, they had to play. They had to produce as 9th graders. Now they're getting to go in when we're up. I'm like, hey, it wasn't like that. Y'all better not take that for granted. In the weight room, what these guys have, the time they put in to get to this point, you 7th through 9th graders, you don't take it for granted because it just didn't happen overnight. And that's something that we stay on about, trying to, get better every day because it took us a while to get to this point.
Well, first of all, Coach, it's good to see you, and I'll tell you, like I told you, brother, we're lifting your mother and your family up in our prayers. But for your players, Coach has alluded to this a couple of times in that the scheduling and getting tougher teams on the schedule. It'd be easier for Coach to sit there and pick games, quote unquote, that he felt like you should win and can win. But instead, picking up games, you keep Fife and Sylvania on the schedule this year, just looking back to last year, North Jackson, Sylvania, Lexington to start. What does that mean for you guys that he's got that confidence to put you guys in those matchups, especially in non-region, to say we want to play tough opponents to make us tougher? What does that do for each one of you?
So, like I said earlier, our non-region opponents they're tough opponents. We're playing bigger schools than ourselves, and that really shows that he knows what we can do, and he puts his faith as a coach in us as a team, and we just got to rally around each other. You can come up to this is kind of off topic, but you can come up to the field house at just about any time, and there's going to be somebody in there working. And that helps him trust us more that, hey, we're going to put in the work, and you can put your faith in us as a team.
Really, it's just the fact of how much trust each and every one of our coaches have in us, where it don't matter where we are, they're always right there with us, and they can always help us. And if we just need to talk or anything, they're always there. It's not just about football to them. It's about being a man and being a good dad when you grow up.
Yeah, I'm glad we play tougher opponents. I think it's good for us to prepare for the playoffs because, it's not, when you get in the playoffs, it's not all going to be easy. Help us get to that state championship we're looking forward to. But I love the trust that our coach has given us, and to go out and play these big games and have this great atmosphere as a high school kid. You look for these amazing, fun games to play in. Like last year against Sylvania, that was one of the best games I've ever been a part of, and just stuff like that. I'm glad they trust us to be able to do that.
To allude on our non-region schedule, my dad told me when I took this job that it would get hard if we ever got it right, and he was right. The 4 non-region games were the 4 that I could get. So I called this year, it was lots of no's. Well, I think we turned down Gunnersville, Boaz, and Cherokee County were the three. We tried to get North Jackson. Me and Coach couldn't find a date because how their schedule, I think they went to 18, which kind of messed it up, whatever. Their weeks were off. We couldn't keep them there. We were able to keep Sylvania, like I said, and like we said, had to figure out a way to get Fife on the schedule. That's something that these guys, I think last year's non-region schedule helped us down the stretch. Same way, it's the same schedule last 2 years. But Lexington, 2 years ago, we come from behind and get that win. They're a playoff team. Sylvania gets us 2 years ago. We come from behind against Sylvania last year. They get beat in the quarters. And then North Jackson's playoff team, they were very physical football team in that game. So it helped us down the stretch. The thing is, you play these games. This year we added Randolph. I know Randolph's got a lot of guys coming back. So that's something, I told you earlier, we don't look ahead, but we also, knowing who we may have to play in the playoffs that may throw it around a little bit, we kind of tried to gear towards maybe if we could, somebody that's going to throw it a little more than what we've seen normally in our region, because our region a lot of times likes to run the football, and we needed to see more of the forward pass because last year, we played Tuscaloosa Academy, and he threw it like 70 times that night. He could throw it from here. I tell the kids he throw it from here to Country Corner, which is about 3 miles from the school. It seemed like we had them guarded or whatever. But anyways, that's why we went with the non-region schedule, because we feel like that it's going to help us in the long run getting ready for the playoffs.
For each of the players, and Luke, you can touch on it too, but what has it been like seeing and experiencing where this program has gone from back when you guys were ninth graders to where you are now?
So being a 8th grader and a 9th grader and not really, we were just thrown in the fire. And that's what he was mentioning earlier, not for these younger kids now to take it for granted that, they're getting to go in when the game is, when we're up, and they're getting to go in and get those minutes. Well, we were having to take the licks and be like that. And that really just kind of sits in the back of my head even to today. Like, that's what drives me. Like, I've been in the fire, and still in the fire, but it just really drives you to just continue to work being like that.
Well, when we first really got over the hump, it was at North End. We basically just had to come to Jesus meeting in the locker room how we can do so much better than how we have been doing. And it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing. None of us really believed in ourselves that we could be the team that we are. But coming back from basically being realistically a girls' school to now the roles are about even, it's just very humbling, to say the least.
I think it was a great experience. We went from 3-7 when I was an 8th grader, and we came in as 9th graders, and like you said, we started out 0-3, and then we ended up going undefeated for the rest of the season. Ended up losing the first round though, but it's been a great experience to see the community come back for football these past few seasons, and just everybody enjoying the football that we have now, and the players getting excited and everything, and we've got a whole new attitude than what we used to have. It's been a great experience.
I go back and watch the COVID year often, and every time I get called, all the assistants scold me for it. I'm like, guys, I just want to see that. Coach, that's behind us. We don't want to go back to that. But these guys have got equity in this program. They'll always have equity in this program. To see, like Luke mentioned, they were having to be producers as 8th and 9th graders, and that should never have to happen. And, now, they still producing as seniors. As juniors and seniors, maybe some sophomores, you're supposed to produce. The rest of the time, you're supposed to be a contributor. And these guys have been in it, and, I'll always be indebted to these guys the last couple of classes because when they first got in here, it wasn't real popular to play football at Pisgah, but now it is. And Coach Poole gave us a compliment. I don't know if the guys heard it or not, but he mentioned trying to get to the Pisgah's level, and I take that as a compliment. And I try to tell our guys all the time how many people call and say, hey, what have you done? What's different? Or whatever. But I'm always be indebted to our coaches, my assistant coaches, because they were some of them were at other jobs, and they could have stayed, but that's how much they loved Pisgah. They knew that we had an opportunity, and they came back, and it's that much sweeter now to see where we are than where we were. And, that's something that we can't rest where we are. We can always get better, and that's what we want to do. But I think it takes a toll out of you to get to that point. But, there was a couple of times through there we were like, we just need the small victories just for these guys to see the breakthrough. And Isaac alluded to the North Sand game. I think they had a 6-game win streak at that time. We're down 14-7 at halftime. We've got a backup center in the ball game. These two are having to play linebacker that they grew up as safeties, and at halftime we put them at linebacker, and we're having to shrink our defensive calls. They get the ball first. We kick it backwards. They get it on the 3-yard line. That's not what you want to happen to start the ball game, but we end up holding them. And we go down and score and tie it. And I think Legion has 3 or 4 touchdowns in the second half. That's the first time we beat them. But that was the night it changed. And, but I'm very thankful, and I thank the good Lord for where we are now than where we were. And that's something that I'll never not forget where we came from, where we started.
All right, guys. Thanks, Coach. Good luck to the Pisgah Eagles. Thanks for being with us today.
I just want to tell y'all again, thank y'all. And sitting over here, I thought about it going into the week, what was coming, but we lost Dwayne Patterson, who was a phenomenal rider. Some of y'all may not know him, but growing up from a kid in DeKalb County, he worked at the Weekly Post, and you knew it was a big game when Dwayne was at your ball game because he was covering the big games in the county. But he had a gift of writing that if you were not there, he made you feel like you were there. And unfortunate that he's passed away, but I just wanted to thankful for whoever nominated him for Jackson County and DeKalb County Hall of Fame. But I'm thankful for that. But he had a gift, and he will be missed in the sports writing and in the newspaper industry. So.
Thank you, Coach.